Hey guys, so Elige was cut from Faze. I know I'm late to that party, but I wanted to see how it played out a bit more, and we still don't know what the roster moves are going to be for either side. So instead of focusing on the overall situation between him and between Liquid, with Twists now being announced to be joining the roster, but we still do not know for who. The assumption is Rain, but we don't know because then that would mean Rain is retiring after nearly a decade on the roster. If it's Jcobbb, then why bring him in to begin with? And if it's going to be, say, someone like Kerrigan, and Kerrigan's now going to coach finally, that would also be an exciting change. But the thing that bothers me the most about all this, I guess, is that they cut Elige after just one season. And I also wish to highlight that during that season, they were playing with a languishing Brokey who had to be benched at the end of the season. They had to play, I think it was Katowice or Bounty, one of their starting events of the season. They played with Skulls as a stand in for the roster. And this was just not the best version of Faze that you could have seen from across the board. That wasn't top 10 player in the world, Brokey, and I don't care what his HLTV ranking was. I don't think he was worth it last year. Uh, but Elige was their best player in some respects, other than Frozen this year. And obviously, they had to rejig some of the roles to accommodate him, putting him, you think outside on Nuke, which is typically Rain's home, which is a move I fundamentally disagree with as well. But that could also very well be Elige pushing for that. It seems like, Kerrigan being Kerrigan went out of his way. Hell, he even had Elige living with him, during the first portion of his move to Europe to make it work. He did everything he can to make it work. And at the end of the day, it just didn't, despite Elige performing within his roles and putting up good numbers. The rest of the team he was not a fit for Faze personality wise. And the only thing I can ask in response to that is, did you not know what you were getting? I'm not going to say that, Elige, I'm not going to disparage Elige's personal character. He is, from all the interviews we've given or that we've been given to see and that he has given, we would be led to believe that he is a very opinionated, if not, potentially stronger than you would want voice for a third or fourth voice on the team. He is much more of a secondary, but he's an opinionated, high involvement player that wants to help have impact on the system, to help adjust the system, to have the team play in a way that he believes is correct, or at least can help improve the team. And, he's coming off of his time in complexity where he is the big dog. So if you're going to bring him into a team of other big dogs and then sit him in the fourth chair and tell him we're not going to really listen to you a ton, then, he was, if you go through and listen to a lot of the VODs, or not the VODs, the behind the scenes vlogs, or the team comms videos they would do, he just never really fit in with the vibe of Faze, and also he was the third or fourth voice on the team. Kerrigan, then either Kerrigan, then either Frozen or Rain. Then on any other given day, it could also be Rain or Brokey. He could even be last potentially.
I'd say the comms kind of remind me of Liquid in like 2019 and 2018. I think that there's a lot more stuff that's like on the fly where we're trying to say everything like really quickly. Whereas on Cole, yeah, it was just a couple guys, more like me, JT, and Halzerk that were saying a lot of stuff. But we also had like a lot of like code words that like simplified a lot of comms, where here we do more things on the fly. And eventually I want to like help shorten down the amount of words so there is like a little bit less chaos, because sometimes it's just going crazy in the comms, and if you get pushed like at any time during those like crazy comms, then it can backfire a little bit. But overall, I think that we have a lot of stuff to look forward to
On the team in some instances, and that's just not the type of environment he's going to thrive in. And I get that this may have been an experiment to attempt to revitalize the team, but if that's the case, did you not know what you were getting yourself into? Because how could you bring in a player such as Elige, who is basically known for these key characteristics, and not be happy with him doing what he has always done? Even then, obviously off the top of my head here, I think he had like 1.5, like a 1.5 rating in his final event for the team. He put up very consistent hard entry stats for the team in order to make space. and that just wasn't enough. And now they've brought in Jcobbb from, Apogee, Baltic, whatever. And, I did a small write through on some of his roles that I can throw here that I didn't really put into video form a ton. But it's not a good look to, cut a well-established player who is performing within his roles in the way that you want him to for a unknown younger, not unknown, he's not unknown, but a tier one unknown younger player who has a professional relationship with your wife, because Kerrigan's wife works for Apogee as a sports psychologist, I believe is her role. But that's just not a good look to me. And it very clearly came out, especially in the interview that Kerrigan gave following the move. I don't remember which event it was for, but he gave a very long interview, and being Kerrigan gave all the answers you could really want without really tipping his hand too much. But just it wasn't a good culture fit, and this seems to be a move to reduce the number of voices within the team, which I find concerning, especially now that you're looking to bring twists back into the roster. This team, other than Frozen, Rain still's putting up very good numbers for his age. This team just doesn't have the firepower, in my opinion, to compete at the top level. And Elige was something, or at least an attempt to bring them that firepower. So I don't know what the future holds for Elige. There are rumors right now that he's going back to Liquid, which I think would be very good because, Nerds needs someone to go in for him. Ultimate is a very aggressive opper, and he's kind of the only aggressive player on the team. It would be very interesting to see a sort of total overhaul to Liquid, but you have to keep, your VRS core. And potentially, this move has been going on long enough that, this move for Twists has potentially been in the works long enough that that's why they didn't cut NAF, is because they may also be looking to make another change and want to keep that core. Many people have been calling for Ultimate's head, as he is really, really feast or famine when it comes to his performances, but he still can perform at the highest levels sometimes, but I don't know if that sometimes is enough. And when we're seeing the meteoric rise of many younger oppers, who knows if that will be a consistent home for Ultimate, or if he'll be unceremoniously shunted off back to tier 2, tier 3, and Liquid's going to take a gamble on someone else. Who they could possibly take a gamble on? Simple, maybe someone you had play for your team before, bring Elige back and Simple back, which would be a very funny, counter to Faze, as that was, the team that made top 8 at Austin and, didn't bomb out, but they did not deliver in the way that they had hoped to with those two on the roster. To see them now have a more consistent home for Simple, no longer being a stand-in and not being as cold as he was when he was standing in for Faze, as he has been absolutely tearing it up over on BC Game in the tier 2 scene. That would be a very interesting move, but I don't know what the future holds for them. But the entire Elige move generally confuses me, and I hope we see a swift resolution onto where that goes. But that'll be it for today, day number 3 of Revival Week. Like I said, these aren't going to be super focused videos. Sometimes it's going to be me talking about things that I've missed or things that I just want to talk about. But other than that, have a great rest of your day, guys. See ya.